Hi, Adam Bierman back, Breezin with Bierman. Again, this show is up to the minute and with it. We have with us Dick Woodbridge, a person I admire, I like. He's the last of what I call the true Eastern Republican. It's like a dinosaur. You really can't find them. That's my opinion. Not that local politics, he's running for mayor of the new United Princeton. I always saw Princeton as one town myself. I never really felt that way.
I would agree with you. And insofar as the dinosaurs are concerned, they keep me on a desiccated bell jar in the back of the geology department, and they bring me out for special occasions.
See how smart he is? You went to Valley Road School here, Lawrenceville Prep for a while, Princeton University. Your wife, you were mayor when?
I was mayor of the township in the 1991-92, and I had been on the borough council before that, where I was council president. But everything I needed to know, I learned in the Valley Road School.
Right. Now we're coming full circle. You're back in this school, and you're running for mayor of Princeton again. I think it's a tough slot. What's going on with the campaign? How do you feel? Your issues?
Campaign is really interesting. I've run, this is actually the 9th campaign I have run since 1976, I think it is. And it's totally different than any other experience I've had. There's not much in the way of an organization because, as you know, there isn't very much in the way of a Republican presence in the town. So since the primary in June, we've had to set up our own organization. And gotten a lot of grassroots support. And so our interesting issue is there are a lot of supporters. Now we got to figure out what to do with them. And as fate would have it, tomorrow at 10 o'clock, we're having a volunteer day at headquarters at 162 Nassau Street. 162
Nassau Street. For those, again, I've asked this question. Liz Lampert, who's running the Democratic candidate for mayor, I mean, you're both talented people. You have deeper roots. What makes you different? What makes you stand out?
I think primarily the experience. I'd probably sum it up in several different things. I've had the leadership background, so I've spent 14 years doing both, governing both towns. I'm one of 2 people in the history of both towns to actually do that. I think I have the enthusiasm, which I think is something that seems to be missing from the governing bodies at the current time. I believe I have the ability and the availability. And lastly, I truly believe in diversity. Right now, we basically have one government, one party that's been dominating both towns for the last 20, 25 years. I'd like to bring in more independents, more Green Partiers, more Tea Partiers, more Green Tea Partiers.
Mm-hmm. Is diversity good for diversity's sake, though, or you just think just different thinkers? I mean, different.
I think diversity is important because it brings in more talent. It's that simple. So there are more people in the mix. I think we ran very well in the 70s and 80s when there was a more collegial atmosphere and operation between the parties. So you had the best of the Democrats and the best of the Republicans working together. Now, I don't think you have that diversity.
We don't really have Republicans, really, at all.
One of the issues I heard that will be facing Princeton is unified is that the people running it need to pay a lot of attention to details.
Absolutely true, and they'll have to pay attention to twice as many details. I found when I was mayor of the township, for example, it averaged 5.5 hours a day, average. So one day would be 1 hour, one day might be the whole day, okay? If you're going to put the 2 towns together, it's going to be not necessarily 11 hours, but it's going to be at least 8. Plus you have the overlay of making the consolidation work. It's a whole new ball game.
Well, if you got elected, that would be your first thing. You'd have to be the Dwight Eisenhower, the D-Day complexity of consolidation.
I would have to be that, except I wouldn't get that cool jacket Eisenhower got to wear. Obviously, the first thing you got to do is try to deliver on the consolidation promise.
Right.
But more important than that, you got to get ahead of what's going on in this area. This whole area has grown and changed and morphed tremendously in the last 20 or 30 years.
Yes.
We got something like 125,000 cars a day passing through town. You got 2 million tourists coming through this area, which is phenomenal. But you got traffic jammed up so you can't get in and out of Harrison Street, Quaker Bridge Road.
Oh, yeah. How do you feel about that jug handle? Throw that in.
I think it's terrible, frankly. It took me, I actually measured it, so it adds another 1.6 miles on my return trip because I work in Lawrence Township, and 2.5 to 3 minutes in a good day, okay? If there's heavy traffic, you get caught in the southbound people who are trying to escape to Pennsylvania. So I'd say that the town was remiss in not getting ahead of that and letting the DOT take over. I see now the county is taking a role in that. but, where's the government been?
Second about consolidation, what about jobs and people losing jobs? How would you handle that?
That's a terrible problem, and one I think that is greater than people recognize locally. The way I think you deal with it is realize that Princeton has become the regional center, the economic growth of central New Jersey. I've actually heard people refer to it as the capital of central New Jersey. You have a lot of people coming in. You've got something like 24,000 people coming into the Princetons every day, okay, for employment. It's really a large number. So I think what you need to do is do like we did perhaps 2 decades ago when Mayor Reed and I got together with Mayor Murray of West Windsor, Peter Cantu, who's still in office, and dealt with some of the regional issues we had then, which actually were a little bit more mundane, and try to make this whole area much more attractive to high tech and to make it easier for people to work here.
It's already high tech attractive. Sorry, Kurt, go ahead. Go on.
For the major issues facing the town, what would be some of the distinctions that you would make between yourself and Liz Lambert?
Well, as a former business person here in town, I would emphasize several things, one of which is trying to manage the tourist trade, okay? The tourist trade is really important because it provides a lot of business in the downtown, and it actually ultimately results in some traffic, in some tax relief. Obviously, dealing with traffic in general would be important.
You want to facilitate that.
Absolutely, you have to, because you can't stop it. If people remember back to the late 1970s, there were actually nobody downtown.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting.
Sundays in Princeton, it was like a atomic bomb hit.
Sunday, and it's like the neutron bomb went off.
Yeah,
There was
right.
nobody here.
The building stayed
And,
there.
and same after dark during the week. So what did the late Mayor Cawley did? He introduced the Central Business District so that you could add if you added residential units to your commercial property, you could actually increase the commercial part of it. And what it resulted in is getting more people downtown. People don't believe this place was actually dead 30 years ago.
Even
So
20 years ago. It
even
just-
20 years ago. So I think that that kind of creative thinking actually has helped the town. Now that we've got all those tourists coming in, now we've got to manage it better.
Okay, arts and transit and the battlefield. What do you stand on those two issues?
The arts and transit business, I think, is pretty much a done deal,
That's
unfortunately.
what Kevin Wilkes said.
And I'd have to agree with him. I think he looked at it carefully. He was originally opposed to it and then sort of realized there wasn't much you could do. I don't want to put
This
words
is
in.
that big building they wanted to make on the university?
It's the big
the Dinky-
project
the
where the
Dinky.
Dinky gets moved back. They build a big facility. I think overall it's a good project.
It's jobs, too.
Yeah, it's jobs for a short period of time at least, but there's no town I know that actually is in favor of moving a light rail out of town. What the Borough Committee did on Tuesday, though, was good. They authorized a study, partially funded by the university, to look at the issue of possibly bringing light rail into town by some other fashion and some other things. So they're looking at it, but I think you got to take the good with the bad. In this case, you don't want to throw good money after bad in a project. You can't
Well,
win.
the university has $100 million, and they're going to spend it.
They are going to spend it, and
It trickles down to us eventually. We'll get to use the building in some way.
I hope so.
What about the battlefield? Any comments on that, the fight over the Institute and the battlefield?
No real comments on that. I really want to see how that unravels and works out. Nobody likes to see historic land taken. On the other side of the coin, it is similar in the sense you don't want to fight a losing battle. I mean, by profession, I'm an attorney. One thing I don't advise my clients to do is to get into losing battles. I'm not sure where it's going to go. I'm going to watch and see how that unravels.
Valley Road building, which I have an interest in. You stood up, you were at the Princeton Township meeting, and what did you say? You explain that to our audience.
Well, the Princeton Township meeting, I've said it so many times, I'm sort of blue in the face. Use it or lose it. It's that simple. You got a structure here. It sort of set the tone of the whole area. You've got a building that can be used. The school board refuses to negotiate with us. We set up the 501c3 specifically to take care of it. We're even willing to maintain it. Okay?
They want to turn the building into a nonprofit and community center.
Absolutely right. So why shouldn't we take it over? Other towns have done it. Somerset has done it, to Port Washington, Long Island, Chatham, Massachusetts, among many. So why not pass it over to a nonprofit organization who can turn it into a building that everybody can use. I don't get it.
So you want to save it?
Absolutely.
Not save it, make it into something, it's not for some antiquity, it's like a museum to come into, actually turn into a vibrant, usable building.
By making it into a usable building,
Yeah.
the building is saved.
Well, let me go a little step further. Absolutely correct. I agree with Adam. And we don't necessarily have to, quote, save it. We can expand upon it. We're not just a bunch of crazy people who just want to save it because it's old. I think it has a lot of utility. It's right across the street from where your municipal government's going to be. It's perfectly situated for that kind of use.
Oh, Judy Wilson, can you get into her head, though? She's the head of the Princeton Regional Schools. I think she's the final decision maker. Does she not want to deal with this? She's not interested in old buildings. Can you get inside her head?
I really don't want to speculate about it. It's sort of been a disappointment in those terms. However, they have said they told us they wouldn't talk to us until after the election and then after January 1. So we've got a few more months to go. By that time, when that expires, hopefully we'll be able to reinitiate a dialogue.
Can Tony Mack take care of all my tickets and whoever wrote that, email that in.
Adam, you don't have to read everything that's written over there.
Well, Tony Mack is someone, he's not Tony
Yeah,
Mack.
but it has
Okay.
nothing to do with this.
You wanted to say something. Well, I thought it was funny, whoever emailed that in. Anyway, go on.
When I bicycle around Princeton, I see so much new buildings, tear downs, and I feel like it's beginning to really affect the quality, the character of the town. Is this going to go on and on and on? We go out to Pennington, it's all intact in the residential section. It looks great. In Princeton, we're getting overwhelmed.
Yes and no. I think the thing we ought to understand is that change is the only constant. When I was in the Valley Road School here, we sold ads to the yearbook in '57. Of the 89 businesses we sold ads to on Nassau Street, only 8 of them are still here. Change is the only thing that keeps going on. I think one has to resist the temptation to say all these changes are bad. Some of them I don't like, some of the taste I don't like. On the other side of the coin is, if you don't let people rejuvenate their homes and go with the times, then you end up with a static situation. I think maybe saving the ones that have some historic value, absolutely agree with it. But buildings that are like 1950 ranch houses, you know, I think I'd be in favor of the person who wants to do the renovation, the change.
Can we
No,
have
I mean, I like it.
Yeah,
don't get
can
me
we have
wrong,
an
but-
expanded historic district? Are there restrictions? Or is there an historic district in Princeton where you can't just randomly build whatever you want?
Yes, there are, and they tend to relate mostly to what the exterior looks like.
Well, final minute. Of course, Liz Lambert is always free to come on. You came on at the last minute. But can you give any promo you want for yourself again in the final minute?
Promo basically is relatively simple. We're out there to make a difference. We'd like to, the government's not moving very fast. There are a lot of important things. We want to bring really 4 issues: leadership, enthusiasm, experience, availability, and diversity. LEAD, that's the code word, LEAD. We want to lead this town forward and get ahead of the future, not behind it.
You want to bring the lead in?
I want to bring the lead in.
And after this, another
I couldn't have said
transition.
it better.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Mr.
Adam.
Woodbridge.
Always good to
Yes.
see you, and thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah, thank you.